So what most people do when they try to create visuals for their brand, they either copycat somebody else's brand, or they just come up with some kind of colors that they think would look nice, and maybe they saw something similar online, and they think start working on the logo and just spend hours on that, or maybe even like spend money on hiring a designer, and then they use whatever pictures they have, or they try to take DIY them, or just take a random picture, and then they can try to link their story and put it with the pictures and the visuals that they have. And not every time it all matches, okay? And some people use stock photography, which is okay to use, especially in the beginning if you don't have like a lot of pictures of your brand, because it is an investment to like actually build the visual content. But think about the brands that you see online, and you see like those clearly staged stock pictures that were purchased. Like, it's like you can't relate to that. It's like, it's not what I want you to do. I'd rather you have just a non-professional, nice picture of yourself than seeing like a fancy picture somebody else did somewhere in South Africa and sold it to you online. Let me introduce myself real quick. I'm Ksenia. I'm a portrait and fashion photographer based in Washington, D.C. area in the U.S. For those who are outside of the U.S., I do a lot of fashion, glamour style portrait photography, and the center of my photography is a woman. So whether it's a mom or a boss babe, I try to focus on the women because we have so much power, like Shazia keeps teaching us, right? You have so much power inside of you, and I want to make you shine in my photography. So whether I do a family photo shoot or whether it's a branding photo shoot, it's all about the woman in the pictures. So today we're going to focus on the branding photography, and I'm going to explain something for those who are just starting their journey on their passion project. What is branding, why visualization is so important, and how to make it right. Because for me, when you think about the visuals for your brand, it's all about the planning first and executing second. Because if you don't plan, it can go kind of like gibberish in terms of the way your brand looks online. So first of all, let's talk about the personal brand versus personal branding, because there's a lot of confusion online when people speak. They kind of like intertwine the two. So personal brand is actually how people perceive you in the world. It doesn't matter if it's offline or online. Before online, everybody has a personal brand, okay? It doesn't matter what you do, it's how you do things. So basically how you show up in life. Are you late? Are you on time? Are you organized or disorganized? Just those like simple things that you never think about. This is part of your personal brand and how you show up for whatever things that you do. It could be for work. It could be for creative projects that you do. It could be for your family. It's like anywhere in life, you are your personal brand, and you have the control over the situation. Okay. So this is a good thing because you can always control how you show up for others or in different situations, and how you decide to act around different situations. And then the personal branding, it's an active process of you shaping someone's perception of yourself. Okay. So personal branding is the things that you do to make people believe that you, for example, a great photographer, or you are a great mom, or you are, a great writer, for example, or the other way around, right? So it could go both ways. So basically the things that so in personal branding now, when we go to online space, it's very important to control what kind of things you put out there and what other people say about you as well. So it's kind of like PR, but in terms of what people say about me as a person, okay? And what you put out there, because this is very important. And now we are so lucky because we actually have control over the situation. Like 90% of the stuff you can control, because this is what you put out to the world through your social media, through people you collaborate with. If you join any collaborations, like for example, I was on Shazia's podcast. So she asked me like what I wanted to share and what kind of pictures I wanted to share and all of that. So you have the control over the situation, which is great. Okay, let's move on. Oh, and the other thing that I forgot to mention, it's very important what kind of stories you tell, because throughout this presentation, we're going to talk a lot about storytelling, because this is one piece that a lot of people are missing from their personal brand and from their business brands. What kind of stories you want to, so this is like the question you want to ask yourself, what kind of stories you want to share with the world. Okay. And now let's see the difference between the personal brand versus business brand. For a lot of people, especially for a lot of creatives, or if you're a maker or if you're a writer, those two will be very closely connected. Okay. Like for me, Shazia, it's like me is my business brand basically, but with with little exceptions. So again, personal brand, it's how you as a person show up for anything that you do. Business brand, it's something like the identity that you place on the business, on the things that you do for others in exchange for money or for some kind of compensation, right? So for example, for me, I'm a photographer, right? So I have my personal brand when I show up, when I'm with my family, when I do my personal things, have my personal appointments, for example. I'm always, I mean, I try to be on time. I try to be organized as much as possible. I try to be fun and, lively around people. That's how people perceive me. And this is what, and a good way to determine like what people actually think about you is to just simply ask, right? Like just ask like those simple questions, like pick, 5, 10 closest people to you who would not lie to you, just to make you feel good. So just ask people who would be honest with you and say, hey, what are my best, maybe characteristics that you can describe me as a person, and what would you ask me my help with? And this way you can understand what actually people think about you and how they see your strengths and your weaknesses. When it comes to the business, so me as a photographer, separate, I mean, it's hard to separate the two, but I don't share a lot of my personal life on social media, even though it's kind of important, but it's a choice always. Like, you don't have to do that. So I try to share mostly things about photography related or professional side related, with a little bit of like humor around my personal life, if you will, just to show my personality. So but the business brand is consists of all those little pieces, like how you communicate with your clients, just the language that you use in your copy on your website and in your emails. Are you super formal, or are you super just like chill, relax, and friendly? And again, it's going to attract, or it's going to, filter the people who can relate to your brand, or people who like, ooh, no, she's like too down to earth. Like, she doesn't sound professional. I don't want to work with her. She doesn't sound organized. And then again, like how you organize your processes in your business is like a specific procedure how you do. So it could be anything. For me, photography, like an inquiry process, for example, I have a lot of things automated, and I have a lot of things kind of like standardized. So it's easy for me to bring people on board and send them the right information as soon as possible, versus them waiting for like 3 days just for me to reply to their email. So that makes the first impression is always, that lasts for a long time, and it's very important. And you can apply this to any process in your business. For example, the baker, like how do you pick your ingredients? How do you go shopping? How do you actually organize your space when you bake things? How long does it take for you to clean up afterwards? All those things matter, and they, even though they're those little things, they directly affect how your business grows and the operations of your business. Okay. So again, like we already talked about it, offline and online. Now, a lot of things, a lot of perception of who you are and how you do your business is online, because a lot of businesses are purely online, or at least you have some kind of representation online, so that people can find you and they can get to know you. And this is very important to make the first impression online. But if your business is not purely online, for example, like me, I have a combination of things. So I do see people, see clients offline when they actually reach out to me and they meet me in person later. This is very important to stay on brand with both things. So I can be like fluffy and all pink and glitter online, and then they come to my studio and I'm like wearing all black and have like this gothic kind of look to me and very grumpy and all that. So it has to, to come together. And at this, yeah, right. And I don't want to try to seem to be the person that I'm not. And I think that's a problem with an online space right now, especially for those people who like will never see their clients offline. So it's purely just, through social media, through the website and online store and things like that. Or even like, it could be like Shazia, like you don't really see your clients offline that much, right? It's mostly on the video call. So you can fake a lot of things, right? But what you can't fake is the way you communicate with people, right? So even though Shazia could show up all glammed up in her bathroom, just like, but the way she talks to me, just the way she delivers the information and her personality, it will shine through anyways. So she will be bubbly, she will be fun, she will make fun jokes, maybe a poop joke here and there when we're comfortable together, right? So eventually,
see, this is how Ksenia gets to know you so well. We've only had one photo shoot together, and she knows all of these things about me.
Well, to be fair, I've been listening to your podcast for quite some time. So that's different.
That's true too.
But yeah, but I do try to get, when I work with a client for like a photography client, I try to get their personality as much as I can. So my point is, stay true to who you are. I know you'll hear a lot of things about being authentic and it sounds all fancy schmancy, but basically just be yourself. And this is the best course of action. This is even for me, like when I started my journey in photography and like being a business woman, I guess that's the fun way to describe it. So for me, I was trying in the beginning, I was like, okay, I need to get things perfectly perfect, and I need to be this person. So I had an idea of like the perfect glamour photography studio that I'm gonna have, but it's not realistic like right in the beginning first. Second of all, the person that I had in mind that people were looking for, it was not me. Like, I'm down to earth, even though I take those glammy pictures that everybody's like look just like fantastic, like they just walked out of a magazine. I do it with a very like on a budget, very low key, make it simple for everybody. So when people come into my studio, it's a small space. It's not like a huge, multi-million-dollar studio. And once I kind of like, I was brave enough to embrace who I am and the resources that I have right now, this is when the magic happened, okay? Because people were coming like, okay, wow, you actually take these pictures here? So, like, people will like still like I had a comment on my YouTube channel because I do like behind the scenes of the photo shoots, and like this guy told me just yesterday, I feel like I'm watching a magician performing like magic tricks, and I'm like, whoa. So you know what I mean? So even if you have like limited resources, or maybe you're not that far advanced at what you do, just stay where you are, tell your truth, try to be a little bit better than you are right now. Okay. It's always a good idea to try to be like one step ahead in your head, and you'll get there eventually. And it's going to be faster when you try to work with what you have right now and be who you are, instead of trying to pretend to be somebody else who, you're not right now. Does it make sense? I know it's a lot of words. Okay, so let's move on. And the first impression is everything, especially online. How many people did you Google before you actually worked with them? Who is guilty? Yeah, you Google everybody? Yeah, you're stalkers. Okay, I am too. So, and the very important thing is that, so when you try to work with a new client, it could be a new client, it could be like in a dating, industry, I want to say, if you try to date a person or try to make friends or somebody's reaching out for you to collaborate with you, like, okay, who the heck you are? And the best way to find out is to Google this person. And I know with some names, it could be confusion if you have like a similar name with a celebrity or somebody who's like in a completely different, you know, area geographically. There will be overlapping, but generally speaking, you should be able to find information about yourself. And it's your social media first, your website if you have one, any pictures anybody has taken of you and tagged you, and any pictures anybody put on someone's website in relationship with your name. Okay, so from now on, I want you to be very self-conscious about the things that you put online. You probably already know that. But so let's do the exercise number 1. And let's just Google ourselves, because we're going to start with visual audit of how you actually look like. Let's do it right now. Are you guys up for it? Yeah. I'm going to Google 2 people right now, which is number 1. I already did last night. This is how Shazia Imam looks on Google Images. If you Google images, and actually I can share my screen. Let's just talk about Shazia. She would love that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if we Google Shazia Imam, and you will see what, like, look at the first page of Google. And sometimes like your name may not be on the first page of Google or anything if you don't have a website or anything like that, or but you should be able to find at least your headshot somewhere in the image section. So you clearly see what she does. So her website pops up first. This is what you want to have, or at least like your Google listing or anything like that, or maybe like a blog. If you write your bio on the blog, this is where all this information goes. So make sure you have your name on the blog, at least your fake name that you want to use for your online space, you know. And if you click onto images, which is the fun part begins, how many Shazia Imams are out there? So there's a few people who don't look like Shazia, but you'll get an idea that this is her. And what do you guys can tell about her just looking by the pictures that she has online? So,
okay. So Sarah said classy and approachable. Mariam said glamorous. Rahila said bold and impressive. Linda said stylish. I think everyone's just trying to be nice to me today.
What do you think? Just looking by the pictures, pretend that you don't know who Shazia is and what she does. What do you think she does for work? So I see like a very vibrant woman first, because she loves color. She has lots of, even though she doesn't have a lot of pictures that we took recently, because they haven't been, the Google didn't put them up here just yet. Those are older pictures that she's had for years. So they are ranked a little bit higher usually. So I see, first of all, I see your identity, like your cultural identity. I see lots of color. I see lots of makeup. So she clearly loves fashion. She's glamorous, but at the same time, she is fun. And she's not afraid to be silly on camera, right? Look at that picture over here. So, I love that about her, because this comes across with her personality, and it's actually consistent with her brand, what she's trying to put out there. So these are the things that you wanted to be looking at. We put Ksenia Pro. And let's not put photography now, because people may not know. So this is what pops up. It's my business Google listing. So you can clearly see that I am a photographer. Apparently you see my headshot a little bit here, like a glimpse of it. You will see my website. You will see my Facebook and Instagram and my YouTube videos right over here. Even if you don't have a YouTube, it doesn't matter. Like, you just have to have your information first, like the information that you control, versus somebody else's blog or website, you know, because people will click like probably here right away, the first link that will pop. And then if you go into the image section, for me, it's different because I do have my pictures that I do for my clients. So it's a mix of my headshots and the pictures that I take of my clients. Okay. So, and I'm going to give you like a little tip or trick in a second. But basically, you can see me right away. This is me. This is me. And again, this picture translates that I am a photographer, right? And I'm just casually like sitting there, but I am looking professional. So this is how I want to show up. I kind of like to be a little bit preppy sometimes. So in terms of the outfit and how I show up. So I want to look professional, but pretty and cute and relaxed at the same time. Because I feel like this is who I am. And this is just like a quiet headshot, but I do have some fun pictures too. They didn't show up here, which is actually not good. So this is something that we can improve. And how do we do that? Ooh, and the one thing that I loved about seeing Shazia's page, look at this picture. Better sex with Shazia Imam. One of the top images. Love that.
That one comes up high on the search engines. I'm like, people are going to think I'm like I have a little one here, but that's what the coaching I do. I just laugh whenever I see that.
Yeah. I love that. So the quick tip, after you do like the visual audit of your brand or your personal brand, make sure from now on, you can change the pictures that you already have on your website, but if you can't do that, just from now on, make sure before you upload pictures, and it doesn't go to social media as much, but like if you have a blog or website, when you actually upload images, make sure to rename your photos that include your name, your like brand name, or whatever thing that you do. For example, Ksenia Pro Photography. So people, or like Ksenia Pro DC Photographer. So it's more like more searchable online, and a lot of people don't do that, so they upload. I'm guilty as well. I would upload just whatever name of the picture is there, but you're doing yourself a disservice doing that, because this is so important, especially the pictures that are important to you and to your brand. Those have to go up in the Google ranking. Okay. For example, like here you can see like a senior pro photographer, coach, headshot, Washington DC. So they would know that this is either a headshot of me or I am a headshot photographer, which is actually confusing here. But I was trying to give people, if they were searching for my headshot, for example, how I look like, this was my idea behind it. Okay, so
oh my God, this is genius, Ksenia. Thank you so much.
Oh, you didn't know about that?
No.
And you can separate. So this could be as long as your heart desires. There's no limits to the name. It could include like your whole life story, if you will. But basically, it's really good to put your location or whatever. If you're online, doesn't matter location as much, but maybe like your target audience or some keywords that you think will be important. For example, Shazia, what would you put in your picture?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely put coach, feminine, podcast.
I'll put the name of your podcast and the name of your website, and then say life coach, and say like for women, and then just describe like maybe 2-3 words, describe your ideal client. The name of the file before tags existed. Okay, let's go back like 10-12 years ago. The way that search engines are designed, they actually pick just the text. So they can't scan. Now they can, but before they couldn't scan the picture, like they can't tell what it is or what colors are there. So they only could scan the text. Imagine like a machine that is blind to any images. So it only scans the text. And this is how they put together the search. What do you call it? Like your search, basically. What do you search for and what do you see? So based on how many items the search engine hits. So for example, if somebody's looking for photographer Washington DC, there's 3 keywords in my in the name of my file, and this is very important, okay? Because this is how the search engine will know what's actually in the picture, because you telling it what's in the picture. Imagine it's like a blind person and you describing a picture to the blind person, and you're like, okay, I mean, I can say there's like a pretty blonde girl there wearing black boots, but it's not relevant to my brand, right? So you can tell this is Ksenia Pro, the photographer in Washington DC. So same thing goes for you. And you can say it about any picture. It doesn't have to be your headshot. Any picture that you put on the website, and say like to accompany a piece of article that you wrote, for example, like a blog post, and you can put the name of your article onto the picture name and say, okay, yeah,
got it.
So that's gonna make it highly searchable as well.
Got it.
Places that the surgeon is looking for. No, that's the back end of my website. This is how my picture looks on my website when I uploaded it. But you have to rename it before you upload. Do it in your actual, like in the Finder, or, just on your computer, just the file name. You know how you put, okay, this is me on the beach. So, yeah. And that's going to work magic, because this is the because when it doesn't work the same if you put like the file that says 1235 and change the name on your website, because it's already uploaded as 1235, and this is what
I see.
the search engine's looking for, like those the original information. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Okay, step number 2, you have to find your passion and write your story, or start writing your story, because it is a process. So first, try to identify your passion. So think about the things that you either stand for, if you want to be like in the speaker kind of space, or like inspiration to others, or things that you're good at actually doing. And again, you can, and things that you enjoy doing. Okay, this could be like three different things, but just find the space where they overlap. That would be ideal, because sometimes like I could be good at like making pancakes, but this is not my passion, right? Or I could be very passionate about singing, but I may not be the best singer in the world. It's like I'm not ready to share that with the world. And so, do you stand for maybe going green and, recycling like a crazy lady? I do stand for, but I'm not really good at, So try to find like those things that kind of overlap, or maybe see if there's any, if you have a passion, see what areas of expertise you're lacking and try to fill those gaps. And again, it's a process. It doesn't mean that you can't start, spreading your message right now. Start where you are. Again, work with what you have. And then as you grow, as you learn, as you get some experience in that area of expertise, you're going to add to your brand. And this is always a process. Like, I don't even think like I'm a great photographer. Okay, guys. So this is always a process. There's always, the more you learn, the higher the plan goes. Okay. And the same thing with money. The more you make, the higher the plan goes. Okay. So when you kind of like sat down and think about, and ask other people again, like, what am I good at? Like, and sometimes you will be surprised, because people would say random things like, I just like how you drive. Like, it's very calming when you're driving, or maybe not. Those random things. And it may not like seem like a big deal to you at the moment, but maybe you have that calming, just your personality, that you can calm somebody down and just talk to them and maybe get them into a better space. And that could be used as your skill in combination with something else. Like a life coach. Like, you could be inspiring, or you could be like calming down, or you could be a therapist, or you could do like, I'm a photographer, but people say like it's very comfortable being around me, because they feel like I get them, and like I don't make a big fuss about the whole photo shoot thing, because it's very simple actually, but people just put a lot of things in their heads. Okay. Second, try in relationship to that passion that you figured out eventually, right? Try to describe how you can help others with what do you do, what are you good at, what are you passionate about. And it doesn't have to be necessarily something that can be monetized right away, or that like, don't think about like helping others, like helping them make money, or helping them, actually receive some service or some product. It could be something intangible. It could be like inspiration or education. All those things, just think as a whole and see like what areas you can actually be, your strength lie in. So if you want to produce some physical products or some services, then think around that. But if not, like Shadia is a great example of that, because she's a life coach. She doesn't have any products. She could have her like line of lipsticks or whatever sometime down the road. But this is not where her brand is. Her brand is like in inspiration, education, mostly inspiration, and just helping others figure out life, basically, or how to relate to life and how the life happens to them and what do you do about it. So this is very intangible. So this is kind of hard to grasp it from the beginning. But if you sit down and just write things down, okay, how people will feel after they work with me, what people will say about me after they work with me, how do I want people to talk about me with a friend if they were to, in a very close secret circle, okay, when you can say anything. So, so these are the things that you can think about. And again, if it's like a physical product, like what value gives it, like what does it do for another person and who may need it. So this is like where it's overlapping with your target audience, with your market and all of that. But this is just the beginning, and this is the base, okay? And then you have to combine for like, now I feel like we're talking about we're going to talk a lot about storytelling. And now we're in this space when the business brands are overlapping with personal brands. And it's all about bringing your personal life experience into your business brand and make it unique. Because this is how you stand out. If you try to be another Target, I mean, I'm just throw corporation names. But if you try to be another brand that already exists, and they already do things well, how do you compete? Other than being you, being yourself, and bringing your unique life story. And maybe you'll be using this, for example, like we're going to use just a random example of having acne, for example. So there's a ton of people with acne, right? And there's a ton of different treatments. But if you have a certain demographic, like you can relate to a certain demographic, or you have like a certain skin type, or you dress a certain way, or you're in a certain, you work for corporate, for example, and you have like different problems than a teenager may have. And the things that you used to treat the problem, those are the things that people will relate to. So for example, your target audience will be somebody who is similar to you, maybe, for example, and who are in a similar situation, and they see you solving this problem. So they are more highly to relate to you, and they're more likely to use the product that you used, because they don't want to waste time looking for all those 5,000 different solutions that another, dark-skinned teenager used. If I'm like a light, fair-skinned professional woman working in the corporate world, I will probably not relate to those products, So big corporations use it in their own way. We can use it in our own way. And it's always good to add that piece of life story or like a struggle. It doesn't have to be like a struggle. You can have like a very boring, normal life. You can be a mom of two living like in the Midwest. And as long as you share the things that work for you, people will relate to that. People who are like in the same situation, right? Or you could be a person with a very dramatic life story who lost her husband and now you have this kid to raise. This is how you like, there's other people who've gone through or going through the similar experience, and this is what will bond you together. Even though your product or your services may not be directly related to your life story, it's always like that cherry on top, that component that will draw people to you. So I know it's like a balance between being vulnerable online and oversharing. So don't do that. Don't overshare. Okay, just share just enough, just to kind of like filter the people who will relate to you the most and build your crowd. So for me, for years, like it was a struggle for me, because for years I never ever said anything about being an immigrant or like dealing with that, the whole immigration process. I still don't share it, but like just a few weeks ago, like beginning of this year, I decided to put like a big story, because it's like a long story, it's a long journey, and I know a lot of people can relate to it. I put like it was just an Instagram post, just sharing my story and how I started. Just like it wasn't even detailed. It was just the idea of my story. Like, okay, so I came to the US 8 years ago. I didn't have much money. We didn't have good jobs. We were just kind of like, it's just us, me and my husband. We didn't have any family. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know where we're going to live. And then here I am 8 years from now. I have this six-figure business, and I couldn't work for the first 3 years, and I didn't drive. So all those struggles that a lot of people going through, they can relate to that. I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, so I thought you were this white chick from like a privileged house, and of course you can do photography, you can do anything you want, and it's not the truth, So those stories inspire, even though if you don't have an inspiration piece just yet, if you didn't figure the final solution, you can just inspire people with just talking to them that they're not the only one in this situation. And again, you can kind of like link it to whatever product, service, or thing you want to do for them. Yes, thank you, Linda. I see hearts and like little things that you put on the screens, but I don't see the chat. Is there anything on the chat, Shazia? Do you want to? No. Okay. Everybody's
no. If there is, I'll let you know. But I just really want to echo what you've been saying, Ksenia, about really being yourself, because even to your example about sharing your story, you really shared on the podcast. You went deep, and I found it to be really fascinating. Like, I got to see you in a deeper way, which made me feel connected to you. Now I didn't even just see you as my photographer who I'd even worked with. I saw you as like, oh, like I feel that deep connection to you, and that does something that you can't even like put like words to it. It's very attractive and connecting.
Yeah. And just think about the people that you naturally attracted to. It could be online or offline. And now try to analyze how much they share with you and who's oversharing and who's sharing just enough for you to kind of like relate to them. Because stories, like even before any social media existed, like thousands years ago, stories, it's books, it's whatever people tell each other. This is what connects people, and this is how we remember things the most. Think about history. And you can rewrite history if you wanted to. So this is basically you writing your own history, or you're writing your little novel about you or your brand. So it's all kind of the same. It's just different ways of doing things. Do you guys have any questions?
Mariam put a comment. This is so ironic. Look at the serendipity. She said, as you were talking about Googling yourself, someone sent me a message saying that they found me in a Google search about Islamic studies. LOL.
See? Is that something you want to be known for?
I mean, that's what I worked for the Islamic Studies program at Harvard. And so this person, I took an online class, I guess, with them. And he was like, oh, I was Googling and I found your name. Can you like answer my questions?
See, that works. That's how people find you. And you would be so amazed. Like a lot of people will not contact you, but they will search for you and they will find you. So see what they're gonna find. Okay, let's move on. Oh, do you want to say something, Jesse? Okay, so exercise number 2. Now we're going to define the passion, okay? So answer those questions. And you can write them down right now. We can take 5 to just kind of like sit down quietly. Or you can screenshot it and do it later if you want to. But I encourage you to do it right now. And you can actually, if you want to do it live with me. So step 3, visualize. So this is the fun part. So the heavy part is over, right? The fun part is where it begins. But a lot of people find it challenging. So what most people do when they try to create visuals for their brand, they either copycat somebody else's brand, or they just come up with some kind of colors that they think would look nice. And maybe they saw something similar online. And they think start working on their logo and just spend hours on that, or maybe even like spend money on hiring a designer. And then they use whatever pictures they have, or they try to DIY them, or just take a random picture. And then they can try to link their story and put it with the pictures and the visuals that they have. And not every time it all matches, okay? And some people use stock photography, which is okay to use, especially in the beginning if you don't have like a lot of pictures of your brand, because it is an investment to like actually build the visual content. But think about the brands that you see online and you see like those clearly staged stock pictures that were purchased. Like it's like you can't relate to that. It's like it's not what I want you to do. I'd rather you have just a non-professional, nice picture of yourself than seeing like a fancy picture somebody else did somewhere in South Africa and sold it to you online. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so the right way to visualize your brand, and by visualize, I mean creating visual content, which is your colors, your pictures you put on your website, any kind of graphics that you use. So it's not necessarily just photography, it's like the whole thing. Like what people see when they go to your website, or if you print things, like what do they see on the printed brochures if you do that? Anywhere that it's like if visual is connected to your name or your brand, this is what we're talking about. So again, like we already kind of thought about the stories that we want to tell in a deep way, in a like fundamental way. And then when I start working with a client for like a branding photo shoot, Shazi actually did a great job on that. So think about the stories that you want to share. And if you don't know what you want to talk about, that's a good time to start thinking about it. And it could be on your, like, whatever your platform is. It could be on the blog, it could be on social media, it could be copy on your website. Just think about like what pieces of information you want to share with people. And again, the best way to do it is through a story. It could be like a personal life experience. It could be a problem that you want to talk about. It could be like a political problem if that's what you want to talk about. It doesn't matter. It's just like what piece of story you want to share. And then think about the best ways to share it and to illustrate it with like pictures or graphics or anything else. And then the second piece of the story is not just the information, how you want people to feel when they read the story or when they see the picture, graphic, or color that you put in front of them. Because this is a full experience. The way that we digest information, you see the picture first, okay, because it's easy. It's like you scan it, boom, you kind of understand what's in front of you, and only then you read the story. That's why visual things are so much more important in like grasping someone's attention right away. So that's why the first impression is always like the visual, or like the way the sound of the voice that comes next, or like the smell if you like in person. So this is like a combination of things, but for online space, it's mostly visual first, 90%, and then they will decide if they want to. If we're talking about somebody who doesn't know anything about you, if they already read like a few posts that you wrote, or they heard you speaking somewhere and they're already interested in you, then it differentiates from there. And then once you decide like what story you want to tell and how you want make people feel, then decide what colors would be right for you, what kind of outfit you want to wear for you, like if you appear in the pictures, what kind of images you want to put on your website, what do they have to show, like what kind of locations do you want to show, like all those things. For example, if you're a mom of two living in the Midwest, you probably don't want to share the picture like my headshot here, my picture here somewhere in DC with a camera. It doesn't make sense for you, so same thing for like, think about like in terms of your brand. And again, for Shazia, she's bright, vibrant woman. She wants to make you feel like you're in her world and just enjoy life. So she probably wouldn't post a lot of sad pictures unless it's like in relationship to like a certain story or struggle that she's talking about. So even like, I feel like if I were Shazia, even if I would share like a sad story, there's always like a bright light in the end. So I would still put like a nice inspiring picture versus putting like a very sad picture. But again, if you're talking about heavy things and like maybe some political things and you want to get into that dark political mood, or something like maybe cultural, or something like very heavy, or maybe spiritual, then it would be different for you. Again, it's like whatever works. I don't think that everybody has to be shiny and smiling and rainbows and glitter all the time. Some people could be heavy, and this is what will attract different person to you. So that's why it's very important to stay true to who you are. And if you're not, you don't want to smile and like be cheerful all the time, this is the kind of pictures that you're gonna get if you're not that kind of person, but you try to be. So just don't be you. Be like serious, be deep, be thoughtful, and this is okay. Don't copycat everybody who's like, woohoo, election day, Anyways, let's move on. So exercise 3, we're gonna thought about your aesthetic in terms of like the visual things that you put out there and the visual things that you use. It could be online, it could be offline if you print things, or even the things that you wear, because you are your personal brand, so you wear your brand. Okay. So actually I've been in the journey, like, and things change, okay? So it's not like this is where you are right now, but things can change, and you can change your colors and your logo. This is okay. It's just like superficial things, but as long as you stay, true to who you are, you will be always on brand. And recently I've decided that I'm only gonna wear black and white for my pictures because that's what I like. And I'm like, I don't like when I wear color. I mean, I do sometimes, but it doesn't look as nice and like true to my professional brand and professional aesthetic. So again, like you could be one person, like I wear like muted colors sometimes. Like sometimes I wear bright colors, but more like for personal things. And I rarely wear a color when I go out on a shoot. So it's always like black and white, like, or like muted colors. This is how I feel I want to present myself as a professional, as a photographer. Same thing goes to you. Like when you go teach, for example, you would probably wouldn't wear some things that you would wear to party. Like this is just common sense to me, but some people, it's hard to differentiate. And again, like in terms of the images that are when you want to use on your website and your social media, think about like what feel or aesthetic would represent your brand the most. Would it be, again, like we already talked about, it could be the feel, the color. So for example, somebody who's very you want to build like a luxurious brand or whatever, so probably like magazine style type of look. So it'd be like something like muted tones, maybe with like little pops of color, but like very I want to say expensive color. Like it doesn't have to be like too bright or too cheesy. It could be like muted and like very, think about like you walking into luxury hotel. What do you see around? What color are the sheets? What color are the curtains? What color are the uniforms of the people who greet you out front? So I think like deep reds, like, or like darker greens. Or think about like a good example I actually really love, if you let's Google it together. I love the aesthetic, me personally, you don't have to really do that, of the airline campaign in Italy. So it's called, my thinking behind it, because Italy is known for their fashion, so I love how they combine the two. So they have very cool uniforms, they have very rich color, like rich in terms of like expensive. They just put it to the next level, and that's what I love about them. Okay, so think about like what would be relatable, or what other people will be looking in your brand. You don't have to be like super fancy, you could be very like down to earth and chill, and like very casual about the way you do things, and they will attract the people who can relate to you. Hope that makes sense. And again, it comes.
Ksenia, I was just going to add one thing to what you're saying.
Yeah.
To like just really emphasize what you're saying. I made a decision too in the last year that I would start wearing my brand colors, because they're actually the colors I like. So now I'm doing a lot of pinks and purples and like vibrant in that genre, because it made it so much easier to do my branding. So even if I'm casual, like I'm out on my bike, my hijab, my turban hijab can be a hot pink. And so I don't have to be in a formal look, but it still ties in with like the beautiful photos you took as well. So like just this simple tweak of starting to just wear the colors that I like, that are my brand, and that I actually look good in. It's no surprise that I picked these colors ultimately. So it's been really easy to just make those small tweaks, and then it makes everything else easier too.
And make sure it looks good with your skin tone, and you look good in those colors when you pick your brand colors, if you want to go next level and like start styling. But this is like the next level. Once you kind of like, you can start somewhere like very basic, and like maybe create a pool of pictures just for you to use and reuse, especially if you're not like a blogger and influencer. You're probably not going to post your headshot every single time. You may use like other graphics or other things, but people need to see your face because you're the face of your brand still. Okay, so just don't be afraid. People really don't think about you. They don't care how you look or how much you weigh or how old you are. They just want to hear your message. They want to see what you're about. And if you can relate to you, they will like, the superficial is just the first impression, just to grasp someone's attention. And then once you actually give them value and you start relating to them on a human level, they don't care how your brand looks, to be honest with you. So everything that we're talking about right now, it's more about to make the first impression, to make yourself feel better about your brand and things you do, and to look professional in the like visual space. That's all we need. Okay, so I feel like we've already spoken to about most of the things on the slide, so let's just move on. Okay, so that's exactly what I was talking about. These are all of my pictures from different shoots for like 3 years back. Okay, so I did it with different photographers. I did it myself as well, and they all, you can see, black and white, black and white, black and white. It's still what I love. That's what I wear for most of my YouTube videos too, because I think that's me. The only color that I did was like for my personal pictures, and this is the only color that I did, but I still wore like a white dress in this like bath of petals, and you don't have to go that far. Okay, but like any props that you use, or maybe a location that you use for your pictures, it could be like within the same colors. I know it's probably going to be harder to find, but like if you use a backdrop or something like that, or like a wall in your house that's painted your brand color, that would be an easy thing to do, you know? So think about those things, and they kind of like look together visually. They really work well together when it's like the same kind of like motif going. So it could be the same color, or maybe it could be like similar expressions, or it could be similar looking locations, something just like something cohesive about your brand. That's what attracts people, and it looks good on your website or on your social media, so people can say, okay, this is what she's about, even though it's not tangible, but it's kind of like the way you make people feel about you and the way you represent yourself. This is important, even though it's just superficial. But for us women, the way we look, this is like high on our list, right? So that's where we're here. So let's look at Shazia's pictures. And it's a mix, again, like this is what I could find online. And it's a mix of the pictures that we did together. So those are the two outfits that we styled specifically. I mean, she styled them for the shoot. And we used those brand colors, and she wanted to be very feminine and very like vibrant at the same time, but passionate. And she wanted to talk about her desires and the way she could like letting things go and like being in a free fall and enjoying this moment. So that was like the big idea behind it. And even like from older pictures with different photographers, they were not taken by me, they were taken by somebody else. She still has that cohesiveness going. So look at the colors of her outfit, this all white outfit that she did how many years ago?
Oh my God, that was almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah, and look at the outfit that she styled this time around. Don't they look like, they're not the same, but they kind of look similar to me.
They're both
in the
beautiful.
Same way. Yeah, the same way those pictures with like colorful outfit on the beach. Look, do they look similar to those that we did with Pinks? They kind of, I mean, they're not the same, but it's still her. And it kind of looks...
Yeah, the essence. You know, I think that's what I've learned after all these years, is that if like what you're teaching, Ksenia, is so important, because if you really follow who you are, your essence never changes. You can up level. Clearly, you can see like Ksenia's photos took me to the next level, but my essence is still there. Even in my business, what I'm passionate about, all the things, when I look back at my notes from what I wrote 5-6 years ago, they're still consistent with what I'm passionate about today. So it's like, whatever's coming up for you, just trust it and be yourself. Like you'll always be you. That just doesn't change no matter what.
And it is so important. That's why we started with the fundamentals, finding your voice, thinking about the message and the story that you want to share, and then thinking who you are, what things you personally like, because this is important. You want to like what you see and what you wear. You don't want to be somebody else, that somebody else has styled you like a celebrity. So, because this is all has to be cohesive. And then it doesn't matter, like, yes, it elevates your brand if you have pictures done professionally, but technically it doesn't matter. You could do it yourself, or like your husband can take a picture, or a friend can take a picture of you, as long like the styling is more important than the technicality of the picture. As long as you do like the light has to be good, like you can do it yourself, okay? And I take pictures of myself all the time. You can do it yourself as long as you style it well and you have good light and okay camera or phone. You can just rock it. Okay, so let's move on. And exercise number 4 is the photo shoot planning. So there's a, although you can use just the graphics, but because we're talking about the personal brand or the personal brand intertwined with your business brand, it's very important to show your face, as I said earlier. And it's very important to plan those things when you're planning your branding photo shoot, when you're going to be the star of the show. Even if you don't want to be the star of the show, you kind of have to if you want to start a brand. Okay, so again, like we talked about, make the list of the stories you want to share, and again, try to tie or like think about which pictures will illustrate those stories. And again, you don't have to be physically in every single picture. It doesn't have to be about you all the time. It could be just like a flat lay of different objects, or maybe your products, or just like lifestyle things that would translate to the story. Or it could be a story, like you can see people in the picture but you don't see their face. It could be like a silhouette kind of picture, or just like, I don't know, it just depends on what story we're talking. So for me, I'm a very visual person, and it's easier for me. I ask people like, what is your brand about, what do you do, how do you help people, and what stories you want to share. And I kind of give them suggestions sometimes, and they agree or disagree with me. And then based on that, I close my eyes and think about, if somebody were making a movie about you and your brand, what would be the frames in the movie? If you want to tell your story first, and then you tell the story of how you help people, what will come to mind? And Shazi is doing the exercise, so I want to be mindful. But you can say, but this is like a good way of putting things. And then you can describe each picture that you see, or each frame that you see. For example, Shazi, you want to go like for maybe just describe what you see for like one of them.
Yeah, the image that came right away was, it would definitely be me like almost small first, like something small, and then showing like, I was imagining like a butterfly. So that expansiveness, like that's the story I want to show, from going small to being
like
myself.
The butterfly going from the cocoon and just opening up, or like a flower going from small to going big and opening and expanding.
Yes.
And like, it doesn't have to be visualness. It could be just imaginative thing. And then you can think of how you can actually put it into the real world picture, So it could be just an idea of like big from small, opening up and growing and sharing it with the world and feeling great at the same time. So think about how you can, so we translate it through the wings. You can translate it through like a flower. You can share a picture of the flower, or like a, like a GIF of a flower opening up on your social media, and just talk about that. So it doesn't have to be you in the picture all the time. Okay. And again, like describe, be very detailed. Like, if it's you in the picture, what are you wearing? How do you look like? Are you smiling? Are you crying? Are you laughing? Are you just serious? Where are you? What's the location looking like? Is it like a fancy house? Is it outside? Is it by the water? Is it somewhere on the busy street? Is it just against the plain wall? What color is the wall? So just like write those little details out, and you will be surprised how helpful this exercise is. Because a lot of things I do it in my head, but if you like new to this, if you write things down, you can visualize anything. And then think about like, what kind of things are in the picture with you? Are you holding anything? Are you doing anything? Like, do you need any props to do that? And then from the idea, you can break it down to little parts. And okay, what is doable? Okay, I have this friend who has this amazing house, who I think will allow me to go in there and take pictures. And she has an amazing closet that I want to use for my pictures. Okay, so I'm literally describing someone's story. Okay. And this is for like those storytelling pieces, the complicated ones, okay? And you can have like one or two of those, because they take more time in planning. And then the byproduct of this, when I do shoots for my clients, I do like a mix of just profile pictures and headshots that I can use that could be like more simple, but still it has to be styled with the outfit and the colors of the background, or like the environment they're in. So those, again, you need to come up with, if you think about the image of the person you want to be, or of woman you want to be in relationship to your brand, like what this woman does, how she acts, what she wears, how people perceive her. So this, and it's not necessarily be somebody who's like out of reach. It could be just like the next step for yourself. So just visualize how you want to show up if you were like in the perfect dream world. Okay. And then slowly you will get there. And it doesn't have to be you every day. It could be you when you like, okay, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to do this thing. This is how I want to look like. So think about that. And this is what you would kind of like think about your headshot is supposed to portray when people look at it. And the byproduct of the photo shoots in between the storytelling pieces that are complicated in the headshots, it's just like lifestyle pictures. If you work with a photographer or you do it yourself, it doesn't matter. You can just like plan out those little things. You sitting on the couch, what book are you reading? Do you want to talk about the book? Those little things that come as like showing your personality through those pictures and adding value to your brand, to like your professional image. You can talk about those lifestyle things on your social media, for example, if that's what you want to do. Or maybe you would be like speaking on stage, if you do a lot of public speaking pieces, or you could be like practicing, like if you can't take a picture on stage, you can be practicing at home and talk about like, okay, I'm putting this speech together, blah blah blah. So those little things, and don't be afraid to share behind the scenes, because that's what people want to see. The behind the scenes and the transformation are the most attractive content you can put out there, or like someone's life story. Basically, it's the same thing. So this is what people are drawn to. And again, like talking about the stories. So the wings, growing wings and letting go. And Shazia just told us about being small to going big. So this is how we planned her photo shoot, even though we didn't put things, we didn't write it down or anything, but we were talking on the phone. And I mean, we were writing down the list of the outfits and like the things we need to bring to the photo shoot, because that's helpful in terms of props, because she wanted to use a lot of different crazy things. So it's helpful to keep it organized. And then we did this picture. The idea was of her free falling. We couldn't execute it as well as I thought we would, but you get the idea. So she just like mid-air somewhere, almost like losing control but enjoying it at the same time. And then the picture, which is not a headshot, but it's just like a nice picture of herself being a boss and being feminine at the same time, because being a boss doesn't mean you have to be boring or corporate looking or anything like that. It's just being a different kind of boss. So this is Shazia. Do you want to add anything, Shazia? I'm using your example as yeah.
I love it. Well, I just think it's so funny too, the growing the wings and letting go. It's just so interesting how that even emerged in that. Again, it's like the essence that comes through. It's so cool.
Yeah. And I want to just gonna briefly talk about a different brand. I did this photo shoot. I worked with them for past 4 years, I want to say. In the very first, most of the pictures are from very first photo shoot here. That was like 2017 or 2018, so almost 3 years ago. So basically this is a lash extension salon, and it's not a personal brand per se, but the owner is the essence of her brand, the way she shows up on her website. So this is the picture of the owner. Okay, she wants to have this glam kind of like bedazzled lash extension salon, and she needs to look the way that she wants her clients to look. And this is the experience that they provide for those clients. So the way her place looks, everything is so cohesive, because she's great, she's like on brand, and I made sure we brought it to life with the pictures. So it's not just the way she styled the space. We had to find the models, we had to style the outfits. Her staff had to wear like similar matching shirts and like stay on brand. She had like those little branded glasses. The way they did makeup, everything matters, okay, when it comes to like visualization. And then we did like, this is the picture, those are the pictures that are actually up on the wall at one of her locations. She has 3 or 4 now, I lost count. So those are the pictures like from the very first shoot that I did for her, like a campaign picture. So this is when we're talking about building like a bigger brand versus just like your small personal thing. So we did the photo shoot with the models. It's about the lashes, but at the same time it's just about the beauty and the colors. And see, because we use the cohesive colors of the background and just like the way I edited the pictures, it's like a softer kind of like nudish pinks undertones. It all translates well with her brand colors, which is pink and kind of rose gold and white. So all together, if you look at her website, everything looks cohesive. We did a video, we did pictures. She uses her colors. See how like she uses the bullet points with those colors. So her brand is very girly, but at the same time it gives you like a luxury and like kind of like, I don't know, like it's like Shazia said, it's essence. It's hard to put it to words sometimes, but this is like what it makes me feel like. And to help you visualize it, create a mood board. There's actually 3 different ones here. They just stitched together. But basically think about the colors and find pictures that inspire you. It doesn't have to be like necessarily related to your brand, but when I create mood boards for my clients, I create mood boards specifically for their shoot. For example, like different poses that we want to use, or like different just like color inspiration, anything that comes to mind, but it's kind of like relatable to their brand. So those mood boards are cool because they just put like different pictures, like aesthetic. So this is what it's called, aesthetic. It's just like, okay, you look at your website and you're like, okay, you just like the dark gray, muted tones, you're not a color person. And then you look at Shazia's website and you're like, whoa, she's bold, she's bright, I love this girl. Okay, I want to hear what she has to say. Okay, so this is how it goes. And then some people will be like, I hate the color, like I like just like this is nice, like faded, I love it. So it's all very personal. And again, you can find a professional photographer, you can DIY your pictures. The way to DIY your pictures in the right way, styling and planning first, it takes 90% of success. Then you need to know how to find the good light. If you have like a big window like I have right now, and like it's not at night. If you stand facing the window and you put all the stuff around you that you want to use, and you have somebody standing with a camera or like a phone, they're back to the window, so you're facing the window, you're gonna look like, you know, your skin tone's gonna look better. So then they take the picture and it looks great, and you don't have to do much about it. Okay.
I want a pro tip to that, Ksenia, too. Like you can get a tripod off Amazon and just you don't even need another person. You can just set up the tripod right there with your camera. I mean, you can get tripods for like $20, $30.
Sometimes it's harder. Sometimes it's easier because you don't have to explain people how you want to look like or what angle to use, because you can control it yourself. Sometimes it's harder because you have to like run back and forth. So
well, now they have the ones I have
well, if you have to reposition
the Bluetooth thing.
You know what
yes, I mean? Yes. Yeah. This is me in my basic way. I'm not a photographer, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's actually a good point. So now time to plan your dream shoot. So go off to the world, guys. Create some magic. Do you guys have any questions?
I have one question, Ksenia, but before I ask it, we're just right at time, so I wanted to thank everybody for joining. I wanted to thank you, Ksenia, for sharing. This was so helpful. Oh my gosh.
I don't even know what time it is.
Oh, well, it's 30 past, so you're right on time. But I wanted to make sure I got to thank you in front of everyone, in case anybody has to drop. Thank you for your time today. And in case anybody needs a photo shoot in the DC area, it's worth it to even travel. Let me just put in a plug to come work with you, Ksenia. So the sharing versus the oversharing. So that's a question I often wonder about, because I used to be so private and now I share everything. And so for me, like, I don't know what becomes the line of oversharing versus really sharing and building that connection. So do you have any thoughts around that?
Give it to your husband to read first.
Oh my God, you would cut like half of them. Okay.
And then find the middle ground. You know, so give it to somebody else to like give you an opinion. If it's like a very vulnerable piece of information that you're trying to put out to the world, give it to like a close friend or somebody who will give you like an honest opinion and say like, hey, is it too much? And they will tell you. There's always a line, so you can share about your experience the way you feel, but maybe those little details that are like ew, or like some things people, I don't know, it really depends on like fertility is a very sensitive subject, and it's okay for some people to say ew and like walk away. But if you're targeting like a certain specific audience, they have like certain comfort level, like hearing about deep, like heavy things, and maybe some physical things that not everybody want to know about, but people really should. So it's always like a fine line.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think that asking somebody would be helpful. And, you know, what's interesting too, just speaking about the fertility, and Nandi, I know that that's a story that you'll share as well. It's interesting that even the episode, my podcast episode I did on fertility was actually like, people were like, that was one of my favorite episodes. And I was like crying in there, and it was like so much oversharing. I mean, but I think at the end of the day, it wasn't oversharing.
I don't think you overshared. You were vulnerable, but you did not overshare. You shared your perspective and the way you were feeling. When you describe your feeling, I mean, as long as it doesn't go for like 3 hours straight, and like crying in the middle and having snot coming out of your nose, I feel like it's okay to describe your feelings. So I think you did it in a beautiful way, and actually, it made me even more related to you, even though like I haven't gone through any like even close experience. I could understand. I could, relate to you and have compassion for you. Because this is what's important.
Yeah, and I'm learning that. I'm learning that that's something I've learned along the way too, is to even share a little bit more. But I love what you're saying too about sometimes it's the details that we choose to share. One of the things that I have learned, I'll just share this, is to share about an experience after it's done. So if you are in a heavy experience, it's not a good idea to share that experience while you're in it, because that can come off as oversharing and people just processing with you, versus if it's something you've been through, then that's something that can be helpful for somebody else.
And when it's like when it's a distant memory, and you kind of like already analyzed everything, the good and bad, and in the middle, then you have like a better perspective of what actually happened. So you take in that, that, I don't know how to say it, but you got me.
The lessons from it.
Because you're taking yourself out of the situation a little bit more than when you're actually actively going through something deep and heavy. And then one other thing that I wanted to say, Shaza, you made me thought about this. So when you shared your experience that I've never experienced myself, but I do know some people who went through a similar experience, but they never shared with me on a deep level. I just know that this happened to them. That made me relate to them more, because now I understand what they're actually going through. So it's not, even though like we're not super close, we're not friends or anything, but I have friends who had similar experience in their life, and they didn't necessarily share it with me, but I mean, I consider ours as close, or like I have clients who've gone through a similar experience, and now I can actually, okay, so this is how it feels. This is what happened to them. This is why they didn't do this and that. This is why they didn't want to talk about, So, because me as a person, like as an outsider, trying to think I want to be helpful, but I don't know how to act. This is the problem. We don't want to know how to act around, if there's like a tragedy happening or something happening to a person who we care about, and we try to help, but we're like, what do you do?
Yeah. And that just reminds me too, like, you never know what value you're going to bring by sharing. Exactly. That's why it's important to put yourself out, like anybody who's like thinking about it or wondering, it's like, it's so important, whatever your story is, whatever your passion is, your skills, like you came to this world to share something, and somebody will find benefit, and we never even know who it is. That's what's
or when it could be like 20 years from now. They'll find your podcast and they're like, oh, I'm going through the same thing right now, and this old lady can help me, but she was young once.
Excuse me.
No, I mean like 20. Well, okay. No. Sorry. Okay, let's say like 40 years from now.
Oh,
yes.
That was very helpful. Thank you so much for your time, Ksenia. And really, this bonus it came from you attending the class, getting the course yourself, and then you saying, hey, I could do a bonus. And this has been so, so helpful. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. Let me know if you have any questions.
How can people follow you, though? Where are you on Instagram?
Okay, next one. So you can find me on my website, which is KseniaPro.com, and on Instagram, it's Ksenia Pro Photo. And if you want to Google me, search me on YouTube, it's Ksenia Pro Photography. Again, if you're someone who's learning about photography or just want to be curious, I'll be putting more tutorials out there about photography and editing pictures and planning photo shoots. So it's a whole process of creative and like the actual technical skills. So if you're interested in that, follow me along.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day or night. And hopefully we'll connect soon.